My name's Andrea Reimer. I am a third-term city councilor in the city of Vancouver. I am a recently former deputy mayor. I'm a much happier current chair of the city's new committee on policy and strategic priorities. I'm a mother. I just started flamenco dancing, so I guess you could call me a rookie flamenco dancer. I'm a premier level soccer player, as you just heard, and I recently became a non-smoker after 34 years of smoking, so yeah. So it's that last piece that inspired me today. Rather than get up, I think some of you might have seen me on stages talking about green a city, or housing and ending homelessness, or transit, or digital, or something. But today I wanted to talk to you about this topic of gender, politics, and power. Under the heading of making impossible possible. So to give you some background on how that connects to quitting smoking, I've smoked since I was 10 years old. I stopped smoking for a period of time. I had a child and it seemed important while I was pregnant to stop smoking. I never stopped thinking about smoking during that entire 10 months. And pretty much as soon as the kid was born, went right back at it. So I guess like I was a non-smoking smoker. The reason for all of this is that in my head, I was somehow genetically programmed to smoke, that it was actually impossible for me to quit smoking. There is apparently science out there that some people are predisposed to nicotine and to addiction, so I was that person, right? It was impossible. So the cool thing about impossible is that then you don't have to try, right? Because if something's impossible, why would you try to do it? You don't have to take responsibility for it. So when we talk about ending homelessness being impossible, when you hear people say that out there, what they really mean is, I don't want to take responsibility for ending homelessness. I don't want to take responsibility for that action. So it's not quite as big a piece as ending homelessness, but I did want to talk about taking responsibility for something that matters, and that's gender equity. So let me explain a bit about why I want to talk about this. And women in the room, or people who have experienced moments of disempowerment, I'm going to take us into a little bit of a space. We're going to shake it off afterwards, because if you carry this through your day-to-day life, it can get very challenging to sort of stand up and do your work, and it is challenging. That's one of the reasons we don't talk about it. So I first ran in 2008 for City Council. I was actually elected formally in 2002 to the Vancouver School Board. I was the first person elected for the Green Party in the country. I worked at the Wilderness Committee, as you heard. I was the executive director there. It's the largest membership-based organization, environmental organization in Canada. I was one of the first 50 people trained by Al Gore on the planet to give his Inconvenient Truth presentation. I was the lead negotiator in British Columbia on the carbon tax on the environmental side to get that out of the Liberal government. I had just finished, when I announced I was going to run for nomination, co-chairing Gregor Robertson's campaign to be nominated as mayor for Vision Vancouver, and ran the largest membership drive ever at the municipal level in Canada. So when the first story ran on about me, and I was formerly homeless, former drug addict, worked in the sex trade, like there's lots of interesting things about me. So the first story that the media ran about me when I ran for City Council was about my hair. As you can tell, I didn't do anything differently today than I do every day, which is nothing. I do not have particularly, in control hair, let's say. It's not particularly out of control, but it's kind of non-conventional for a woman. So they wrote about this, that my hair was a little bit out of control, and did I really think I could get elected with hair like that? So no, not a word of a lie here. The second story that ran about me, anyone want to take a guess? Also about my hair. It was awesome. So my friends are emailing me. I'm a very out feminist, right? My friends are emailing me saying, what? Why are you letting this happen? Why don't you write something? So here's the thing. When the strident, bitchy woman writes a letter to the editor saying, stop writing about my hair, what the hell does that achieve, right? So I'm feeling a bit in a bind. I decide to write a press release. I'm going to go get a haircut. I had no idea that hair mattered this much in the campaign, so this is it. I'm gonna go get my haircut. I'm gonna invite the media to come watch it. I have a kid with hair, a husband with hair. I have plenty of, experience with hair. Therefore, I think I'm very well, if this election is about hair, I feel like I have a shot in this election. I only sent it to the reporter who wrote those articles, same reporter on both articles. He stopped writing it. He sent me a note and he said, I get it. I'm going to stop writing it. But it's not the last time my hair was written about. Had my hair written about. I've had my clothes written about. I know I could change them, but I just don't want to. I feel like I have the right to wear the clothes that I feel comfortable in and are reasonably respectful of people, to do a job in just like everybody else can, that none of us should have to be judged by what we decide to wear on stage. So other tactics that I've used have been less successful, though. When I first got elected to school board, I was 29. I just started running the largest environmental organization, just became the first Green elected in Canada, had a 5-year-old who just started school, and I'm sitting at this table. You know those things you go to, you're going to consult, you're going to talk about stuff. Somebody needs to record, right? So who records at the tables you've been at? Think about it. If there's 7 men and 1 woman, who gets the pen in their hand? Any guesses? It is the woman. They all just look at you, especially when you're 29, like your genetics are coded into picking up that pen and writing down what they have to say. Obviously, I didn't feel very excited about that, so I suggested to them that we all take a sheet of paper and write down the size of budget that we personally controlled, as well as the number of staff that we personally, were the direct report for, and that whoever had the largest of those, because I thought size matters to this particular crowd, that person take the notes. They were not amused, although it did result in someone else taking the notes. So maybe it had an impact. All to say that sometimes it's better to act with a little bit of humor. So a while back, and part of what inspired me to get on a stage and talk about this today in the safer environment of BIL, hopefully, was reading an article about the 3 things every woman has to deal with. They were being interrupted, mansplaining, and if you don't know what that is, I am not going to be the one to tell you that, and other people, men, taking credit for your issues. So having experienced all 3 of those, and the article was a very well-written article, so, I thought, I don't want to look like a complaining woman, but I am going to post this on Facebook because it validates an experience that I myself have had. Maybe somebody else has had this experience. I posted it. I had hundreds. It was the most liked article ever on Facebook. I had women writing these notes saying, I had no idea that I was not the only one that happened to, that they had internalized and felt that it was their fault that they were being interrupted, that their ideas were being stolen, that they were the only ones who were being patronized in meetings by men. So then I started getting emails saying, well, what are you going to do about it, right? And realizing I work for one of the most progressive governments on the continent, or work with one of the most progressive governments. I thought, I've experienced this, but is it really ubiquitous? So I started taking track of how many times I was interrupted in a meeting with my colleagues. Anyone want to take a guess? Every week, every month, every day? Every day, and almost every time I spoke, I would get interrupted. And I had somehow rearranged my world that this was just okay, that this is just part. It was like some guy writing an article in my hair. This is just the way politics works. This is just the way my world works, that I constantly have to sort of rearrange how I'm going to be able to deal with that phenomena. And I'll tell you, when I did decide to keep track of it, I got really mad, and that's not a great way to bring yourself into the world, right? When you start realizing these barriers are there sort of persistently, hour by hour, minute by minute, it's very hard to sort of bring this person you need to be able to. You need to be confident. You need to feel like you matter. And when people are telling you you don't matter by interrupting you over and over again, by not hearing your ideas, it's hard to tell the world that you matter. So what I found is that I did some research on it and found that women often don't deal with it. They just quit. Women, one of the most common reasons given for women quitting from employment is because they feel they are being interrupted, like they aren't being listened to, and like they don't matter. And their best option is just to be able to leave. So if you're a man or woman running a country or a company, or a country, which hopefully will happen one of these days in Canada, that's not good for you to know that potentially up to half of your workforce, if you had a demographically representative workforce, is likely to leave simply because they don't feel like they matter in your company, because their day-to-day experience is that difficult if they really start to pay attention to how they're being treated day to day. So here is the question about what you can do about it. First of all, you have to be able to talk about it, right? We have to be able, as women to women, as men with women there, to be able to have this discussion. So no matter which side of that gender line you fall on, or if you're on the non-gender conforming spectrum, I have a non-gender conforming child, and that's a whole other discussion about how we treat gender in society. But to say that if you are a man, and particularly if you are a white man, you have the power to turn gender equity into possible in a way that none of the rest of us do. We need you to call bullshit on the interrupting. We need you to call bullshit on the mansplaining. We need you not to participate in mansplaining. Yes, we know the same. We read the same Twitter articles you do. We're on the same internet that you are. We watch the same TV shows. So it's reasonable to expect that we have the same intellectual capacity to grasp the things that we're reading and internalizing, right? I would love to see an episode sometime, if anyone's in film and TV, of womansplaining, like where women go about their daily lives and explain things in the way things get explained to us. That would be a great ally moment for a man to be able to participate in. So it's a numbers game, women. So the question is, how many of us are in your organization or on your board? How are you putting your money where your mouth is? Are you funding organizations, charities, where there isn't 50% women on the board? This year I made a decision to take all of my charitable dollars out of organizations that didn't have an equal number of women represented on the board. Stop interrupting, very simple. This is true of women and men, right? Women get interrupted on a factor of about 48 to 1 to the amount of times a man gets interrupted. So I can get by women and men, so I can guarantee you're doing it. So think about it and how you're gonna stop doing it. Finally, have you ever been in a room, men or women, and I want you to put up your hands on this. So you're in a room and you're having a conversation with someone, and it may have just happened today while I'm talking about this, because this is a difficult subject, right? Have you ever had a moment where somebody said something and it was directed at you, and it was directed at taking away the feeling that you mattered in that room? It just sort of sucked the life right out of you, yes. I'm gonna guess we have all had that moment, right? So now I want everyone to stand up. And I want you to shake that feeling off, right? I don't want you to walk out of here or leave this talk feeling that way. And I want you to look at the person next to you and say, you matter to me. All right, so power is not finite. You just shared it, you just made it grow. The power that you create in this room is something that you can take out into the world and use it to empower others. You can tell women they matter in a million ways, by not interrupting, by helping us explain things in a way that we're trying to explain it, by supporting us and standing on stages and being the very best that we can be. And you can help us simply by telling us it matters that we're there, and I can guarantee you that we will make it matter to you that we're there as well. Thank you very much.